Hey guys, it's Kevin from Horology Project, and I have a treat for you today. Today we are looking at the Seiko SRPD21. It is part of the famed Turtle line. The Turtle was re-released a few years ago with the SRP77, which is the black dial, black bezel Turtle. And ever since its release, it's been a very popular watch, and Seiko has really expanded that line with a lot of different versions of the Turtle that you can get. Mainly the differences being between what type of bezel choice, dial choice, kind of color combinations that you can purchase. I feature Seiko watches a lot on my channel, and that's just because these watches are just such good value for money. There aren't a lot of other brands out there that you can get that are under $1,000, let alone under $500, with as much legacy and heritage that Seiko has, unique designs, in-house movements, and the likes. And really a certification, a diver certification, they are the industry standard really. They invented the whole diver certification standard. So there isn't just a lot out there that you can enjoy at the Seiko price range. Although I will say this, it seems like Seiko is changing where they want to be in the market. It seems like with the release of Grand Seiko, or at least Grand Seiko trying to make stronger strides in the American market, since Grand Seiko's been around for a long time too. It seems like Seiko is trying to push their other offerings more into a mid-tier category. So I've seen a lot of their watches starting to be more at 500 and above price ranges versus 500 and below price ranges, and this is no exception. The MSRP for this watch is about $525, although you can find this for less, or at least I did. I think I paid about $300 for this watch. So a little bit about this watch. Let's talk about some of the specifications and things like that. It is 45 millimeters in diameter, so across. Under 48 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, 22 millimeters in lug width. It has a caliber 4R36 as the movement inside of the watch, powering the watch. That is a day-date movement that beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour. So that is a slower beat than some of the more high beat movements, which would be considered 28,000 and above. The nice thing about a slower beat movement like these Seikos is typically the service intervals are less. So a lot of people don't realize that the higher beat you go, yes, it's nice because the stuttering of the second hand becomes more smooth the higher you go. These lower ones still have a pretty smooth sweep, and a big bonus is the service intervals are usually less, since the watch isn't really beating as much, so it's not being used as much, if that makes sense. It is a 24 joule movement with a power reserve of 41 hours. The crystal, that's this, on this watch is a hardlex crystal or a mineral type crystal. So it is not as scratch resistant as sapphire, but because the crystal is lower than the bezel, it's usually pretty difficult to get a scratch on these watches. It is an automatic movement with manual wind, and here I'm going to put the winder by the microphone. Listen to how nice this is. Buttery smooth winding, and it does have hacking seconds, so you can get your nice adjustments there, get it exactly where you want, and it does have quick date change, so you can change the date pretty quickly. So you go counterclockwise for days, or for the numerical days, and then clockwise to change the day. All right. The threading as you screw it in feels great. It's a great watch, guys. I honestly don't know many watches that can do as much as Seiko does at its price point. So this is a large watch, as I had mentioned. It's 45 millimeters, but there's something worth mentioning. Now, even though a watch can be 45 millimeters, which for me is almost always a pass, since I have smaller wrists, my wrists are only 6.5 inches. This watch wears a little bit smaller on the wrist. So that isn't to say that it's a small watch. It is a big watch. It's a big chunk of steel. But it doesn't wear so big that someone with my wrist size can't enjoy it. It's actually really well proportioned. Kind of like the Omega Speedmaster, the crown guards of this watch in this cushion turtle type case go out further from the bezel. So the bezel comes in from the edges of the watch. So because of that, it's more like this watch is a 42 millimeters if you were to eliminate that, those sides on the cushion case, that crown guard, the crown right here. Because of that, it's actually like this watch looks like a 42 millimeter with some extra steel. And because this lug tip to lug tip is more compact, being that it's under 48 millimeters, that also really helps with the wearability of this watch, just being at that 48 millimeter mark. My wrist can handle anything up to around 50 millimeters before I start feeling like I'm really pushing it, but I really like it when it's below 48 millimeters. 47 millimeters is probably my favorite on a dive watch. So that's just good to know. I'm going to go ahead and put it on for you right now. The strap, this NATO strap that I have it on, does not come with the watch. It's from WatchGecko, and they make some great straps. They're a UK-based brand. But as you can see, the watch wears totally fine on my wrist. And remember that when you watch these watch videos, the watches always look so much bigger because it's zoomed into my wrist. So the further that you would be going back, the better that it would appear. Let's see if I can show you that. My camera gets all grainy, but I think you guys get the picture. So it wears totally fine on the wrist because it doesn't overhang. So the minute that a watch overhangs from your wrist, it's way too big. So what do I like about this watch? What don't I like about this watch? Seiko changed up some things from the original re-release of their Turtle. Specifically, the watch now has kind of these engraved numerals around the bezel, and the bezel height is a little bit taller. So these engraved indices look so much better because it used to be painted before, and now it's nicely engraved and painted on the inside. So you can see that, and it looks like it almost has like concentric circles around the bezel. You can kind of catch that on the right side by the 30, and it looks really sharp. So it just looks a little bit more premium. The bezel itself is a little taller. I like the old height, but they did that so that you can grip it a little easier in turning it. The bezel rotation is slightly softer, but still reassuring with little to no back play. Just a little bit there, but nothing that's going to bother anybody, I think. What I don't like about this watch is the blue in the dial does not match the blue on the bezel. And if you look at the production photos, this black here looks more gray than it is. So that really bothers me. The wave pattern's kind of cool. It's a little playful. So if you don't like playful, then don't get this watch. But it is pretty neat. Another negative is a misaligned chapter ring. It's 2020. Seiko, line up your chapter rings. Come on. So my chapter ring lines up fine with the bezel, but it does not line up with the 12 o'clock indices. So overall, it's a great watch. Really enjoy it. It does have a newer crown that looks a little bit better, but nothing too drastic. I do hope that Seiko continues to use these updated bezel inlays because they're just really nice. But I would have preferred the old bezel height. I don't like things that make my watch taller, personally. So I'd rather sacrifice a little bit of grip, which I thought the grip was fine, for a smaller height of the watch. So really fun watch. Definitely worth considering if you like the blue and black Batman style watches. Check it out. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I appreciate that. And question for you, what's your favorite Seiko Turtle watch? I'd love to hear from you. Catch you in the next one.